Hello, I'm Matt Marshall, founder and editor-in-chief of VentureBeat. We're here live from GTC 2024 talking with Kurt Kuckein, VP of Marketing at DDN Storage. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Kurt, tell us a little bit about what your company does.
Yeah, so DDN, we're the largest privately held storage company in the world. We focus exclusively on high-performance computing, accelerated computing, and AI in terms of our storage solutions. And so we grew up in the high-performance computing industry, have been around now for close to 25 years, developing solutions there. And recently we've seen an explosion in interest in our products just because of this explosion in AI. Jensen talked, a year ago that AI is having its iPhone moment, and so we're having our own moment in the industry.
Great, Kurt. Can you drill down a little bit on how exactly storage has changed over the last year? If generative AI just really came about last year, how has it changed exactly?
So I think it's just this increasing realization that the amount of data that needs to be stored and processed and even originally captured is just exploding, right? We're walking around with our own data generating devices in our pocket nonstop. Now our cars are generating terabytes of data a day, and all of that's being fed into some kind of centralized location, and data just sitting there isn't really useful to organizations. And so these organizations now realize they need to exploit that data, and using these gigantic large language models, they now have a vehicle to really mine that data and turn it into useful insights or even new products.
Kurt, okay, that's great. Speeding up to today, GTC, you're here, you saw the keynote. Can you talk a little bit about some of the big trends that you're seeing?
Sure. Well, I think the number one trend, right, is just the explosion in computing power.
Yeah.
Right. Jensen talks about accelerated computing is something about being able to do more with less, and so data centers all around the world are facing power constraints, cooling constraints, even real estate constraints. And so having these really, really powerful chips that can process an enormous amount of data will allow us to continue that amazing curve of just being able to advance applications, advance how powerful applications are for consumers, for business, and all of that is driven on the backside of having that available data. And so through our partnership with Nvidia, we're along for this amazing ride.
Jensen, CEO of Nvidia, announced the Blackwell system, the next generation GPU system. There's the SuperPod. Can you talk a little bit about your role, announcements you made with Nvidia?
Yeah. So SuperPod itself, so we are the storage behind Nvidia's own SuperPod. So their Selene system, their Cambridge One system, their EOS system, and a majority of the SuperPods around the world are backed by DDN storage.
Okay.
And that's because we do have a unique value proposition within our product, which is we're using a parallel file system, and that allows us to really balance read speed and write speed. Typically, folks had thought that these really large language models were very read intensive, but what we're finding actually in production is that they need both read capability, so read lots of data, but they also need to be able to write, because these really complex models are spread out over so many GPUs that something is invariably going to go wrong. And so you need to be able to checkpoint each iteration, and folks are doing these checkpoints on an hourly basis. They need to be able to write the data down to disk, and you need to be able to do it really, really quickly, and that's where DDN shines, and we do so very efficiently. And so we allow folks to, again, that accelerated computing theme of trying to do more with less, we allow folks to really accelerate their data, either reads or writes, with a really small real estate footprint and a really small power and cooling cost.
Sounds like there's a lot there in storage. I think it counters this perception in some of the marketplace around the commoditization of storage.
Sure.
I think a lot of people were looking at Microsoft's Fabric move as a way to get maybe away from the commoditized storage business. Sure. It doesn't sound that commoditized. Could you talk a little bit about the differentiation you have with some of the other players there? Maybe
Sure.
you just answered that in part.
Yeah, a little bit, in part. All right, I think at the peak of the market, where you need this peak performance and also the stability of the system at that peak, that is where we're going to be differentiated from your standard storage. If a company is running just a few GPU systems, let's say 4, 8 GPU systems, then probably any commodity storage is going to suffice for them. But we're dealing with customers who are buying thousands of GPUs. And so whether they're running it as a shared GPU cloud, we have a lot of partners here at the show, folks like Lambda, Vultr, Scaleway in France, Bitdeer in Singapore. These are all folks who are doing really large-scale cloud and are able to either give dedicated computing time or shared computing time to a lot of different people. And they have the same challenges as a really big manufacturing company like Nvidia's designing their own chips. And so they have these incredibly enormous supercomputers that are dedicated to just doing that. The challenges are very similar. And so at that peak performance, it's very different. And then the other piece that is becoming more and more important is really everything else, right? So yes, training is important and training is difficult. It's a really complex challenge, but so is everything else. And so being able to gather that data from the edge, bring it into the data center, bring it into a public cloud, and then be able to do useful things with it is probably the next frontier. And you see a lot of emerging vendors taking that challenge on. And then we also just announced in the last year a new product from DDN called Nvidia that is addressing this kind of AI data plane.
Right.
On a software basis, right? So the one thing that we want to get away from is a reliance on hardware, because the hardware truly is commoditized.
Okay.
Right? There are still certainly vendors out there, including ourselves, who are selling appliances. It definitely makes our life easier, right? We can control the entire environment. But I think what customers are looking for is to be able to utilize the systems that they have in their data center already today to be able to help them design and deliver storage services.
Yeah, this question isn't necessarily so technical, but maybe for the wider market. This is the last question, Kurt. But since you mentioned the value in the chain, right? I think originally there was the thought that hey, OpenAI had the model that the value was in the LLM, right? The large language model. Gemini, others have come out. You literally have scores of companies competing at the level. Almost feels commoditized.
Yeah.
Then Nvidia on the GPU level has seen massive valuation increase, taking over Google as the third largest. So something gets in the hardware or the GPU level. Where would you put it?
I don't know. I mean, I would say, and even Jensen said that Nvidia isn't really a hardware company. They are a software company, right? And so I think establishing the software capabilities, right? There are plenty of folks out there who are doing accelerators on the market, but they really don't have that full stack approach. And the one place where we add the most value in that stack is in the data and in the I/O. And we integrate with the entire Nvidia networking group. We integrate with the GPU group, and we integrate into the software stack. And so I think that was where Nvidia has really, truly, created itself a differentiated position from all these other players who, have very nice accelerators, but are maybe difficult to consume. And so Nvidia has really invested in making this technology easier for everybody to consume, including those folks who are delivering then the end user applications. And that's exactly what we're trying to do too with storage, is make that easier for everybody to consume, and that way they're being able to apply value-oriented decisions as opposed to maintaining hardware, which no one wants to do anymore.
Kurt, well, congratulations. Thanks for coming here. We're out of time, but thank you very much, and we'll be following your story.
Great conversation.
Intriguing journey you're on. Thanks, Kurt. So thanks, guests, for watching, and be sure to explore more sessions in the GTC catalog.